Hey everyone, it's Sam back for episode 3 of the Notpastaagain podcast. I really hope life has been good since the last episode and that more flourishing than floundering has been happening in your kitchen. It's been an interesting few weeks for us. We have all been ill, the usual sharing of school time bugs. Harry, my eldest, is always first to fall. Then Felix usually goes down next, and finally it will be me. And this is exactly the pattern that has just happened. Thankfully, though, every illness was short-lived and we're all back to good health now. I wonder if you've suffered some of the same woes that we have with illness. Being a mum just throws up so many scenarios that you have to navigate, doesn't it? As for my kitchen, well, that has been interesting too. I've definitely had some wins, but I've also definitely had some losses, namely with my youngest Felix. Peas, apparently, are the devil's food, which means my recent lamb keema didn't go down well with him at all and was absolutely rejected when I served it up for the second time, having thought I was being clever because I batch cooked to make my life easier at a later date. So my plan didn't quite pan out in the way that I wanted it to. My biggest win, however, was getting him to eat disguised spinach in a lamb sarg. He seemed to completely miss the ingredients inclusion despite the very, very green appearance of his dinner. But a win's a win, right? You take them. And his face was an absolute picture when I congratulated him on the fact that he had just eaten spinach for the very first time. However, I haven't been brave enough to repeat that meal quite yet because I'm pretty sure, despite liking it the first time round, now he knows that spinach is in it, he will definitely not eat it again. And another mini win amongst these meals is the fact that I serve them both with rice. I actually managed to swerve the can we have it with pasta scenario, which indeed for me is massive progress. So today I'm really excited to welcome my first guest to the podcast, Ellie Codling. Ellie is someone that I have met recently at a networking meeting and we just really got on. So hey Ellie.
Hi.
How are you doing?
Good. Thanks for inviting me on.
It's an absolute pleasure. Have you had a good morning?
Yeah. Not been too bad.
Good. That's good to hear. All right. So we'll get straight down to it. I think first off, what would be really great is if you could give us a little bit of an overview about who you are, what your family scenario is, day-to-day life. So we have a picture of who Ellie Codling is.
Yeah. So I'm a mum of 2 and my husband is out of the house pretty much Monday to Friday, gone out all day, sees the children in their pajamas, probably is the best description of it. They're just getting up and then they're ready for their stories when he gets back. So he's busy and out. I'm self-employed part-time and my eldest is 5, so she's in school now. My youngest is 2, so some days in nursery. So they are getting their meals in their childcare settings at some time of the day. Yeah.
All right. So a mum, a wife, you work. Any time for hobbies?
Oh, what are they? Everyone else's hobbies. All the swim lessons and all the other clubs that are going on. But yeah.
Okay. So if there was time, what would be some of the additional things that Ellie you'd like to be getting up to?
I'd love to do more exercise. I used to go to a regular Pilates class. We used to have a dog, sadly, no more. So that would have been, used to go out on dog walks and things. And cooking. I really enjoyed cooking, but I don't get the time. Yeah. It's probably a past tense, Sam. Yeah, you're right. Probably. Okay. Yeah, since having the children. Yeah.
All right. So interestingly enough, you know that this podcast is very much about enabling people to flourish rather than flounder with food. And I think that's really interesting that in the past tense, you've just said you enjoyed cooking. Tell me a little bit about that. Where did that stem from?
So I was really lucky in my upbringing in that I was brought up on a farm. So we used to have a massive vegetable garden. Mum would cook from. She's a fantastic cook, my mum. We'd always be something going on in the kitchen. She used to cook a hot lunch. So my dad would come in and have his hot meal at that time of day. So if I was home, we'd see mum cooking. And we'd be at school having a hot meal at school. So tea would be, sandwiches, fresh bread and lettuce, tomatoes, all the things out the garden. And I just learned a lot from watching my mum cook. She was a great baker and, I'm pretty confident at baking. and
Okay.
generally cooking.
So you
My
said,
confidence came from learning from and seeing mum. Yeah.
okay. So you said you've got siblings?
Oh, yeah, sorry. So, yeah, my sister, she's a good cook too. Yeah.
Okay.
And
All
we
right.
used to just be in the kitchen and help out. Then, Christmas time, the smell for days of her mum making mince pies, sausage rolls, Yule
Oh,
log.
oh,
Oh, she'd just make the lot. It was fabulous. Yeah,
I
very
bet.
lucky.
Yeah,
No
100%.
microwave. Everything was fresh. Apple tree, plum tree. Yeah, very
Okay.
lucky.
Huge amount of nostalgia coming through in what you're saying
Yeah,
there. You
sorry
can,
about that.
no, you can feel it, and it's amazing, isn't it? So has that scenario of good food continued into your role now as a mum?
I'd love to say it has, but it hasn't. We don't get to live such a wholesome life as I did then. We're
Hmm.
we're not on a farm. We are busy working. We haven't got the veg patch. We haven't got the eggs off the chickens. We're not we're not that. We are eating plenty of eggs because they're a good kids' meal. But it's not the same scenario now, and I feel that guilt. Actually, I do feel the guilt that I'm not
Okay.
giving them as a wholesome childhood as I had.
So you referenced that you used to like baking. I think your mum was a baker, fresh bread, homemade bread. Is this kind of thing the things that you're managing to do, or?
Yeah, I wouldn't say there was much homemade bread, but she went to the bakery. So that in my sense, there's pretty much we're almost there, aren't we?
Yeah.
But yeah, she was a great baker, and same for me. We do with the children. I do a lot of baking. We
Hmm.
make a lot of savoury muffins because that is my guilt again that there's some veg gone in there. We make fruity sponge things, blueberry
Yep.
scones and things like that. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So, bit of a baker. You've got this beautiful history of great food and the nostalgia of your mum making everything fresh. So, talk to me about your kitchen on a day-to-day basis. What words come to mind? Similar ones?
Um. Yeah. Maybe not. It's busy because of the scenario and the makeup of Monday to Friday. They've had a hot meal and they don't want two hot meals in a day, which I understand. I don't particularly want two hot meals in a day. So the children's tea is separate usually to mine and my husband's tea,
Hmm.
and theirs is a simple, quick tea of toast or sandwiches or eggs. Again, we're eating a lot of eggs, omelette, scrambled, boiled. Yeah, and which is it gets a bit boring and a bit stuck in the rut, and I feel a bit bad that I'm serving the same things. They're quite happy with it because children
Hmm.
like a routine, and we know that one, so we're happy with that, mum. Occasionally it's pasta, but that's only if they feel like two hot meals a day. And then I'm cooking a separate tea, either once they finish their tea I'm then prepping our tea, or it's something that can be cooking in the oven while it's bath time, because I'm conscious we're not eating too much later than after 8 o'clock.
Hmm. Okay.
So that can also determine what am I cooking for us,
Yeah.
depending on the time I've got to make it.
Hmm. It's interesting. You've sort of sparked a question in my head, and I want to come back to the fact you're cooking two different things. But first of all, just that element of your kitchen, how's it equipped? What kinds of stuff are you using to get food on the table?
Yeah, so at this time of year, the slow cooker's back out. That
Hmm.
gets well used, and that sort of invigorates me a bit because, we've got a few different meals in the mix here. We've got a repertoire of 3 or 4 stews, which by Christmas time we're bored of as well. But there's a slow cooker. We've got a microwave, which I don't use to make meals. I
Hmm.
use it for what probably most people are using a microwave for. There's the coffee machine on the side, and there's the kettle, and then the stove top probably gets
Okay.
used more than the oven, because I tend to find the meals my children are liking the meals done on the stove top more. So uh, spaghetti bolognese, chili
Yep.
without the chili powder, but
Yep.
flavored with cinnamon and cumin for them. And then they like a vegetable risotto, so that's a
Okay.
win. But that's something I have to plan to make because
Okay.
of the time stood stirring
Hmm.
that, and it's not a quick meal. So that could be a weekend meal or one where
Okay.
I know Matt's in the house. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Does Matt help you with getting food on the table?
No, but that's fine but that's all good.
Yeah.
That's the dynamic in our house, and I don't
Yep.
mind that I am the cook and
Hmm.
he does do all the washing up. So, that's a win.
Yeah, it tends to fall out like that, doesn't it? You know, one person tends to
Yeah.
cook and the other person puts everything away, and I think that's a great little balance in the kitchen,
Yeah.
isn't it? So, okay, so
It's fair.
you've talked about the stovetop being the main source that you're using to put food on the table. You've mentioned risotto, bolognese, chili. What else? Have you got lots of meals that you can make from scratch?
No, probably about 10, and that would include sausages with just veg and potato and
Okay.
maybe a jacket potato. We're not talking fancy food here. It's all a bit. I feel since having the children, our food has become quite bland.
Okay.
And I've got stuck in a bit of a bland rut,
Hmm.
probably for what I'm making for Matt and I as well. I do as a curry, but when I say that, it's a half cheat curry in that I've got the paste pot and I'm adding the
Right.
coconut milk and
Hmm.
because the actual making a curry from scratch of all those different spices, I find is just too much time.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah,
So time,
yeah.
and you've also referenced feeling guilty.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So tell me a little bit more about that, because I think it is something that so many mothers and probably dads, if they're responsible for putting food on the table, also feel. What is that all about?
For me, it's the guilt of giving them a real good balance of flavour as well as all the fruit and veg and nutrition that they need. And I really get that guilt because I was, like I say, brought up on really good fruit and veg and I wasn't picky and we ate all mum's food would be everything would be served with a load of veg.
Yeah.
And it's still like that now. When we go to Granny's, we get loads of veg, and that's no bad thing. So probably a lot of my meals will be a meat of some sort with lots of veg.
Mhm.
But
And they're
then that can also sometimes be pushed around the plate. Mm.
I was going to say, is it eaten or is it pushed around the plate, which I experience a lot.
Some weeks it is. This is the thing, isn't it? Their tastes and moods change all the time. So I'm still serving that up, even if last week it wasn't desired, because you can look up from your plate and go, "Oh, she's eaten all that."
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. So I do spaghetti, but bolognese is good because you can get the veg in.
Yep.
And chili, I load that up with veg and it goes down well, and kidney beans and all the rest of it. So there are foods that I try and cook regularly that ease the guilt, but then am I giving them enough variety?
Okay.
So there's the guilt there.
Yep. And you've again referenced earlier time. What were you meaning? How does time impact on the things that you make?
I suppose it impacts on the fact I haven't got time to really consider something new. I
Yep.
haven't got the time to practice cooking something new.
Yep.
And then also maybe there is an element of me of I want them to eat a meal and I know that one will be eaten. I think you said that on your other podcast and I really nodded in agreement on that. But yeah, maybe I am serving up these meals because they're a dead cert and I just want my kids to be well fed and healthy.
Exactly. 100%. There are times when you just need to put something on the plate because you know it's going to be eaten. 100%. I agree
Yeah.
with that. In terms of that time element, though, for me, some of the meals you've mentioned, like a risotto, even a bolognese and a chili, to me, they seem you need a bit of time. So are you a planner, or what's the story in terms of that?
Sometimes I do an online food shop, so that's planned because I'm thinking who's here, what day, what can I make in what time. So that's done. Or I do that on the drive to the supermarket. I think, right, what are we having? I'm out Wednesday. If I make something Monday, my husband can reheat it Wednesday. That's a second meal for him. This is how I think. And then I'll be in the supermarket and I probably pretty much always buy the same things, go in the trolley, even the ingredients. And then something might jump out and go, oh, actually fish. Let's have some fish.
Yeah, you're like, whoa. Would the
So
children eat fish?
yeah, they're not bad, but they like my fish pie and I like to make them a fish pie, but again it's something I need to stop and think about. And also, why does it always make the house smell? I
It's
love to
true.
make them it, but it really lingers.
Yep, absolutely. Because everyone says you should eat fish, don't they? But again, it's
Yeah.
like, well, how do you cook it? And 100%, that smell, and it
Yeah.
lingers. It doesn't, go away
You
really
don't get the
quickly.
lingering smell with a fish finger, but that's not so good.
No, not at all. Fish fingers and fish finger sandwich. All right.
Yeah.
So we have lots of different things that are impacting on how you feel in the kitchen. Like we say, we'll just recap: guilt, a lack of time necessarily,
Yeah.
maybe being stuck in a rut. You referenced that, I think, as well. Um, you've touched on confidence and how that sort of changed and how you feel. Can you tell me a little bit about what that means to you and what you mean?
Yeah, probably because we were married some time before we had the children, so we used to have people around for dinner and things, and I'd that would probably be my main thing of the day is, oh, they're coming for dinner tonight. So I'd get the recipe books out. I'd go and buy the ingredients. I'd have the time to make a nice meal, and we'd all enjoy trying something new. And that was part of what my hobbies probably were at a weekend, was cooking nice meals. And since having the children, I don't have the time to do that. And life's changed. The friends that would come round for dinner can't come round so easily now because they've got the children at home. So I'm not cooking like I did. And actually, we had some friends round for dinner last week, and I did feel like I had a feeling of, I'm not very confident with what I'm about to cook here, because I think this could be quite bland. And that's how I feel all the meals I'm serving are probably now quite bland.
Yeah.
And that's knocked my confidence. It's not that I don't feel confident with the pans and the chopping and what I need to do with it. It's actually, does it taste delicious at the end of it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can relate to that 100%. I think lots of people will also be able to relate to that. There's nothing worse than that feeling of, oh my God, does this taste okay? And not feeling that it actually is. All right. So let's come back to a weekday. All right. You're standing in your kitchen.
Yeah.
What kind of words would you use to just describe and sum up how you're feeling about the evening and putting food on the table twice? Because you're doing two different things, Ellie.
I am. And the children's meal, okay, so that is probably, it's rushed. It's samey. I feel a bit guilty that it's not something different.
Yep.
So I'm feeling that there. And then when it comes to our meals, sometimes that can be a secondary thought. I probably do have a bit of guilt of, we didn't have enough veg yesterday, and now I'm serving something else with not much veg. And that feeling of, oh, is this quite carb heavy? We're having this at 8 o'clock at night. All these things. And also I'm watching the clock thinking, probably should have started prepping this a bit sooner. It's rushed, and it's also a task. Probably not that enjoyable.
Yeah. And if you think back to what you was telling me at the beginning, and your face was like lit up, the nostalgia of being in your mum's kitchen as a kid and all those feelings of great food being on the table and that you were lucky. That's not what I'm feeling that you're getting when you're standing in your kitchen during the week, putting food on the table for your family. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think that's really fair. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I don't want to leave it at such a sad point. We might come back to that. But I guess you've been really lucky to have had a Thermomix in your kitchen for about a month.
Yeah.
And I would just like to know what your immediate thoughts are when you sort of bring that up. How was that for you?
Well, so the journey to getting a Thermomix in the kitchen for me, I first heard you mention about them, and I was a bit skeptical because I've got all these other things on the worktop. And then I saw you demo it actually, and the food that you made in it so quickly was really new, really healthy and tasty, healthy. Right. So that was great. But somebody at the demo said, oh, my grandson came to stay and he brought the Thermomix with him. He couldn't wait to show Granny what amazing things this does and wanted to cook with Granny with the Thermomix. So that sort of made me, and you said to me, you can demo one. So that, I think, sealed it, that I thought, okay, let's see what the children make of this. And they loved it. It was great. Yeah, so I brought it home, and the children, they absolutely loved it. To the youngest, it was like a robot because it shuts the lid on it and it plays a tune when it's finished, and it makes a loud chopping sound and the steam comes out. And it was a joy. They literally were dancing around it when that played its tune, and they couldn't wait to look in and see what was in there. And my eldest is learning numbers, so with the inbuilt scale, it was really good for her to see the numbers go up, and it was really great. It brought a lot of joy in that I felt better because I then was finding meals and snacks, Sam, snacks. That's a thing as well in this house of the guilt. When I'm pretty good in that they don't eat a huge amount of snacks, but of course they're children and they do have snacks and they're good about having fruit. But beyond the fruit, the snacks tend to be something out of a packet, and I feel guilty about that too. So while I had it for that month, I deliberately went out to look for snack-based food I could make in the machine to serve up and batch cook and then give. We found these root vegetable oat bars and they loved them. Wow, win for us all, you know, and savoury muffins and all sorts. And because they'd enjoyed making them and they'd seen it come out the clever machine, it was great. Yeah, it really was. We made the chunky bolognese that you suggested in your previous episode. And bolognese, of course, is on the list of rotation in this house. And I made it for years. I make it without measuring things. It's one of those that I know I can do quickly, but actually having then had the one out of the Thermomix, I realised how bland mine got, and it was way tastier and just as easy to do. And it chopped everything, so thanks for that. Yeah.
So all those sort of things that you talked about before of being not having time, feeling guilty, stuck in a rut, what impact did the Thermomix have on those sorts of things?
It saved time in that if I knew what I was going to do. So I then got back into my love of cooking in that I would then look at the cookadoo online in bed that night and think, oh, we'll try that. And I'd add it to a favourites page I created so I could find it again easily. And so it became, I suppose we made time for it in a way because we all enjoyed doing it. It became an activity. And we loved doing it because I had it through the summer holidays. So we had chopped salads and all these things for picnics. I made loads of sort of picnicky food. So it really helped with giving us variety, the nutrition. It gave us more. I was still in the kitchen with it, but so the risotto definitely saves time because you don't have to stand and stir it.
I think the one thing I love about that, in the sense that you said you made time for it.
Yeah.
I love
it became an activity.
I love that because, you didn't talk about the children being involved in food that you were making when you didn't have the Thermomix, but now you're sort of saying, I can feel like it was a communal event.
Yeah, that is true. That's true. They would help me with baking. They've always done that side, but I suppose on the meal savoury side, no, I didn't let them get involved, usually because it's around a hot stove or you've got sharp knives out and things. But now that's a really good point. I hadn't thought of it like that, but yeah, it felt safer to use, other than me saying don't touch the bowl now because it'll be getting hot. But it glows red as well, which is also a nice good warning. Yeah, it was fun. I think we all miss it, actually.
Well, I'd imagine you would miss it. Obviously, that's what I'm going to say. I think that's brilliant because I think there's a real difference in terms of what you were talking about in terms of putting food into the house and onto the table before, and then hearing you talk about the Thermomix. That's a really nice change. And you think you're missing it, or you are missing it?
No, I am missing it, but circumstance at home at the minute is not giving me the opportunity to actually get one permanently, as you know. But it's definitely on my list of things to get. Yeah.
Okay. So in that sense, as I move forward with my podcast, I'm going to ask my guests 2 questions, and you're obviously going to be the first person to answer this question. And I think it's really interesting because not everyone has heard of the Thermomix. So I am really keen to understand from everyone's perspective, how would you describe a Thermomix to someone who knows absolutely nothing about it? Or think of it as an alien comes down and you've got to tell them what a Thermomix is.
I would say it's a really fun kitchen device. Actually, it's made us eat a variety of food. It's made it fun in the family. It's it's a lot. It's like a kitchen aid. It really, it's a helpful. It's like having somebody else there, because you tip, because of the scales, to put this many things in, and it's like almost like, whoa, that's it. Next. And it's just guiding you along, so it gives you the confidence back, because you know that that's going to turn out absolutely spot on. It's going to cook it for X amount of minutes. See, the risotto in that's a lot quicker, because I think, oh, this needs half an hour or so to make sure that risotto is well cooked. But it knows 20 minutes, done, definitely done.
And you're not standing there stirring the risotto.
I'm not standing there stirring, and it's brought me confidence back, definitely. So if somebody was saying, what is it? I would say you need to see it demoed to really get the idea of all the different functions and things it can do. I didn't realise it washed itself until about 2 meals in, which, wow, I totally love that. That's amazing.
Yay.
Yeah, don't even have to stand and wash the thing.
No, absolutely not.
That's the other thing, because it's got lots of parts to it. You think, oh, actually, is that going to be a faff to clean? But no, it's not.
No, absolutely. And I don't know if you noticed when you had it, there is actually a slow cooker function on the Thermomix as well. So
is there? No, I didn't spot that. Oh, so you say I might even, so my slow cooker might have to be gone from the side then, maybe, when I get it. Well, that's a bonus in itself, that I haven't got another thing on the side. Yeah,
exactly.
I didn't realise that.
No, and it's one of those things that a lot of people don't realise, the extent of what the Thermomix can do. So I even held on to my slow cooker for the longest out of all the other things that I had, because I thought I would need it.
Right.
But when you've got your Thermomix and it will do that function for you, then you don't need that extra piece of equipment in your kitchen. So there's a slow cooker. So there you go. My second question that I'm going to ask you is, I want you to tell me what your dream meal would be that you would cook for your family if time, energy, and picky eaters and guilt were not a part of your life, and you were just able to create the perfect meal.
I would really like to be able to make a beef Wellington. I've never made it before. I love to eat it. You don't often see it on a menu when you go out to a restaurant. And if you do, it's expensive, which understandably, because it's one of the best cuts of meat. But I know it's not an easy thing to make. It takes time to make it. But I just know we'd all love to eat it if I'd made it. So probably for me, it's a beef Wellington.
With veggies on the side, of course.
Oh, with veggies on the side. I might even push the boat out and make some red cabbage to go with it. So,
woo. And there is a beef Wellington recipe on Cookadoo. So again, you possibly didn't notice that.
Would that make it easier in making the mushroom? I don't know what you call that.
I don't
know. The surrounded mushroom. Does that do that bit for you?
Yeah. And you can make your pastry in the Thermomix first, and it would order it all for you in terms of ensuring that you did the right stages at the right time. And you'd be able to make that beef Wellington. So when you are a fully fledged owner, which I'm hoping will be soonish, you'll be able to make a beef Wellington for everyone. So,
Ellie, I'll let you know when I do.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Ellie, so much for joining me today and answering my questions, giving us some insight into your life in the kitchen, and in particular sharing, I guess, that nostalgia from your childhood kitchen through to the feelings you have in your kitchen as a parent and as a wife, and then also sharing how the Thermomix had a little bit of a positive impact on your world. So very much appreciate you coming and joining me.
Oh, thanks so much for having me on, Sam, and I'm really enjoying your podcast so far. So good luck with that.
Thank you very much. So that's it for this episode. Next time I'll be talking about confidence in the kitchen, or the lack of it in many cases. So please do join me as I tackle the belief that many of us have that we just can't cook. We can shift that and change it so that there's a lot more flourishing than floundering in our kitchen. If you do have any questions for Ellie or myself, then I'd love to hear from you. And you can send those questions through to me on the show email at notpastaagain@hotmail.com, or you can message me via Facebook and my Instagram account as well. Those details can be found in the show notes. So until next time, don't feel overwhelmed in the kitchen, because together we can flourish and not flounder with food.